Traders, don't focus on looking for tops or bottoms. Focus on figuring out the environment. And we'll go to the charts so I can show you how I'm trading Ethereum. Let me take you to this week's NinjaTrader Charting Edge. Pulled up Ethereum here on the daily, same old, 20 period, 3 standard deviation Bollinger Bands. Red is the 10-day simple moving average. Gold is the 20-day simple moving average. Well, I'm looking to get back in ETH again. I actually got in some today. And I want to take you back just to what I talked about a few weeks ago. Most of you know, if you've been following this show and me on social media and the podcast, Ethereum has been one of my biggest positions for about a year now. And I like to continue to get in and out of the position. And I always leave a small core position on an Ethereum and I wait for the pullbacks to get back in so I can acquire more ETH. Going back to what I did back here, you guys know that I like the tops of the Bollinger Band peaks as targets. If you remember, this area was around 3,300. I talked about that. I didn't take any off there yet because I wanted to see how we traded around the 10-day moving average and maybe squeeze a little more out of it. I talked about this in a previous show. Once we closed below the 10-day moving average, I covered a majority of my position in ETH. Pretty much was the low tick there, but that's okay. That happens. Then a consolidation for a period of time. Then we saw that spike up to right around 4,000 in ETH, and look at where it hit, this old peak on a daily. I talked about how 3,300 was an area I would look for resistance in a pullback. Well, that same thing happened again. Then over the past few days, we saw a steep decline in ETH. Right away, it came on my radar to wait to see how the Bollinger Bands would react. And you see the top Bollinger Band starting to get flat. The bottom Bollinger Band got flat, and they look like they're going to start to come in. You guys know I like that type of look. That's what got me back in here. Once the Bollinger Bands come in, hold above the 10 and 20-day moving average. Back in here is where I got long. Rode that up. I'm waiting to see what happens here. I dipped in a little bit today, and I'm going to tell you why. Nowhere near a full position, but I'm going to tell you why I did it. When the Bollinger Band peaks start to come back in, what I like to look for is retracements back 50% between the top peak and the bottom peak. So let's say bottom peak is roughly 2,500, top peak is roughly 4,200. That's 1,700 points in ETH. Divided by 2 is 850. 850 on top of 2,500 is 3,350. That came in right at the 20-day moving average. And when I saw that we ripped below the 20-day, came back and started to hold above it, this morning we got back below it as we were recording today and started to hold back above it. I dipped my toe in the water a little bit, but I want to wait and see how things pan out. What's interesting here in ETH is that if this starts to hold, what I think we could see is if we start to regain above the 10-day moving average, that Bollinger Band starts to open up, we could be heading towards this peak way back there, which is right around 5,000. So I wanted to dip my toe in the water a little bit here to see how ETH is trading. Time will tell. If we start to hold above the 10-day moving average and that top Bollinger Band starts to open up, again, like a mouth similar to here, then maybe I step in a full position. And I want to talk about where my risk is currently just on this little ad that I put in here right around 3,350. Just these recent lows, if you look at this spike lower, it pretty much held these recent lows, roughly a 3,000 area in ETH. If it violates there, then I will cover this part of my position that I just added on. And who knows, I think we can go all the way back down and test these tops. I'll have to wait to see what happens with the Bollinger Bands from there. Once again, it's about executing the journey. And for right now, I think it's time to step in long a little bit ETH, wait and see how the action unfolds over the next few days or so. So that's this week's NinjaTrader Charting Edge. In my opening today, I talked about how traders should be focusing on the environment, not focusing on finding tops or bottoms. I put this tweet out the other day. One of the most difficult lessons I had to learn using technical analysis is that it's not the precise turns of trends I should be looking for, the tops or bottoms. It's when the environment changes in that market. I don't need to be precise. I just need to know the environment. Let me take you back to that ETH chart. Here we are back at the ETH chart. And what I see in ETH is the bull mode is still intact. Now, I'm never going to look to see if I could catch this bottom here, and who knows if it's a bottom or not, and who knows if this is a top or not. We don't know. But what I'm looking at is the environment. And what I see is pullbacks in ETH start to consolidate, hold above 10 and 20-day moving averages. You know I like those because that's a really short to medium term strength of trend in the market. So it just helps me identify how strong a trend is. And ETH seems to regain them pretty quickly. It doesn't spend a ton of time below these simple 10 and 20-day moving averages. And what I saw here the other day was very similar to what we've been seeing in the past. When we get spikes below it, they tend to come right back to them. Now, it might be choppy for a period of time. I actually expect it to probably be choppy for a while after a big move like that, a big move higher than a big move lower, consolidation, test both sides, but the environment is still bullish to me. We're not seeing a move lower where it's hugging the bottom Bollinger Band. You're not seeing a lot of time spent below the 10 and 20-day moving averages. So in my mind, I'm still in bull mode. So all I'm looking for is areas to be long. Now, I think that it's going to be a cautious bull mode because the Bollinger Bands aren't clean. You guys know I like to trade areas where the Bollinger Bands are clean. Go back to this last setup. I talked about how I started to get in here, and that's a clean Bollinger Band move higher. Really just clean execution for me because the Bollinger Bands were clean. Now the Bollinger Bands are choppy. So right out of the gates, I'm saying to myself, you can add here, Anthony. It's relatively a tight stop. If it fails to hold above 3,000, I'll take off the ads that I put on here and continue to keep a small core position, like I said, because I'm bullish for the much bigger picture, and maybe I get a better opportunity to buy them down below. So when I look at the environment, I say to myself, step in, be cautious, relatively tight stop. If it starts to firm up, don't be afraid to step back in. It's not about picking tops or bottoms. No one's going to be able to step in and buy that 3,000-ish low, and no one knows if that's the bottom or not. I'm not even focused on that. I'm focused on the overall picture. What is the environment? If that move would have continued to go lower and started to hug the bottom Bollinger Band, I might be saying, whoa, maybe I even want to take off my core position because we could be in bear mode. We're not seeing that. What we are seeing is a pullback in trend like we've seen in the past, coming right back to the 10 and 20-day simple moving averages. Bollinger Band's a little choppy like I mentioned, but starting to come back in. I expect it to be choppy, but the bull mode is still intact, in my opinion, from what I see here. It just means to be cautious and wait to see how things unfold. And if the market starts to show us that it remains in this bull trend, at least I have more than just a small core position on, and I could step back in and get to a full position again. If it doesn't work out, this is why I like scaling, I could dump that position that I just added to and wait to see what the market tells you. Remember, it's not about picking tops or bottoms. Impossible to know if that's the top, and to be short up there, I don't short crypto, and it's impossible to know if that's the bottom. It's also actually almost impossible to even buy those at that time. I remember looking when Ethereum hit the roughly 3,000 area, it came off of it so fast, you don't know if that's the bottom or not. That's why I don't even focus on that. I look at the big picture and I focus on the environment. Hang tight, I'll be right back with my final thoughts.
Why did I add futures to my trading strategy? 24/7 access to diverse global markets, like wheat. Can you say growth opportunity? We should probably harvest that.
Final thoughts for today, traders. I remember being in the S&P 500 pit and getting distracted by what other traders were doing, and it hurt my trading. I had to learn how to sort out what was important for me to see and hear and use that in a meaningful way. Current day, this is what social media is doing to traders. What do I say each and every week? I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to teach you how I'm thinking. And if it works for you, great. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. I've said this before in the show. I want people to disagree with me. I think that's so important. Too many people are trying to be like other traders, and they have all this information out there in social media, and they think they're missing out on something, or they see someone else successful at something, and that means that they'll be successful. I was around some of the best traders in the world, watched exactly what they were doing, and I still failed. Why? Because it didn't come from inside me. And that's what's the most important part of you and your trading. As I say at the top of my Twitter page, trading is a journey of oneself. Learn from others, but don't try to be like others. Remember, traders, micro treasury yield futures are now live at CME Group. To learn more about micro treasury yield futures, go to cmegroup.com/yield futures. And if you're enjoying the show, hit that like button. If you're not, give us the thumbs down, but put your questions and comments down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. You could also DM me on Twitter at Anthony Crudele. And don't forget to check out Instagram, Anthony C. Crudele. That's a wrap for today. See you next week.